Well, thank you very much. Buenas tardes, todas. It's a real pleasure to be here tonight to tell my odyssey, and especially also to be part of what really matters as well, and looking forward to telling you my odyssey. 29 years ago, I was living in a slum suburb somewhere in India. I was only about 5 years of age and stood just over a metre in height and stature. And the only possession I had on myself was my t-shirt and shorts, which hadn't been washed for months and months. My family consisted of my two older brothers, myself, my sister, and my mum. And my father left my family just after my sister was born. So she was around 3 years of age, which meant that my family went through adversity, deprivation and destitute. And my mum had to start working as a brickies labourer, hulling cement and bricks at construction sites. But these construction sites, they were about 2 to 3 hours away from where I lived, which was in suburbia, in the outer skirts of my hometown. And it made it really difficult for my mother to come back and see myself and my sister and my brothers. And sometimes, you know, we'd see her 2 days apart or a week apart, and sometimes it may be longer. But one of the things I was sort of assigned to do was to look after my sister, my little baby sister. And my two older brothers, they were sort of away at train stations, selling toothpaste, or stealing eggs from hen farms, or coal from coal trains. And anyway, I was assigned to look after my little sister, and I did the best as possibly as I could. And one of the things that I did was during the night, I'd go around our neighbours where we lived and knock on the door to see if any of our neighbours had some leftover food. And sometimes, you know, you ended up getting something, and sometimes you didn't get anything at all. But, you know, what I did end up getting was, you know, not something substantial for myself and my sister, but it was enough to keep us both going. And so, the town that I lived in, you know, it wasn't a big town. It was extremely dusty. There wasn't a lot to do. My best friend was my sister, who couldn't even string a sentence together. And so it was as sort of the people that are from the slums and the rest of the people in our neighbourhood never associated with us. And so anyway, one particular night, we were all sort of congregated together, my sister, myself, my two older brothers, and my mum. And you know, it was a sort of a rare occurrence because it really didn't happen. You know, we never had a curfew, so myself and my older brothers could sort of walk out and into the town and come back whenever we wanted. And anyway, this particular night we were all together, which was a really happy feeling. You know, here's a family unit, and we're all together, and that's what I wished it could be like every day. But it wasn't like that. Anyway, I thought to myself, you know, I'm sick of looking after my sister all the time. It's boring. I need to be mentally stimulated a little bit more. I wanted to do what my brothers did, you know, steal eggs from chicken farms and coal from trains and sell toothpaste as well. I know it's totally illegal, but I didn't know that back then. And I thought to myself, I'm going to wait until my older brother, starts to leave. And I thought, you know, I'm going to chase after him and tell him, hey, I want to come with you. And so I waited for that particular moment where I saw the silhouette of my brother walking around the side to sort of, you know, walk off and do what he did. And so I ran after my brother when I saw that. And I grabbed his leg and I said to him, I want to come with you, don't leave me here anymore. And he said, you've got to stay here and look after your sister. you've been assigned to do that. She needs you. And I said, I don't want to stay here. I want to do what you guys did. And so after sort of begging and grabbing his leg and not letting it go, he said, okay, come with me. He gave up. And so before I knew it, I was catching the late night train with my older brother, the oldest brother, from my hometown train station to a neighbouring train station, which was about an hour and a half time. And at that point in time, I was getting quite tired. It's past my bedtime. A little boy at the age of 5, or just under at the age of 5, should be asleep by now. But I'm catching this train to a place called Burrumpore. And anyway, the train comes to a halt at Burrumpore train station. And I'm in a cubicle with, in this carriage with my brother, and the train comes to a stop. And we stand up, I grab my brother's hand, and I'm sort of walking a little sort of groggy, disorientated, and we disembark from the train, from the carriage, onto the platform of Burrumpore train station. We step off, and straight ahead of me, I see this sort of a park chair, just a long park chair. And I let go of my brother's hand and start walking towards it and sit down. And all I wanted to do was just go to sleep because the legs are doing all the talking. And anyway, I decided to go to sleep. But just before I go to sleep, my brother said to me, "Stay here for a second, I'll be back." Now, I'm not too sure whether my brother was going off to find somewhere where we can sort of reside for the night, or he was trying to find some food for us, or some money. But all I heard was, "Stay here for a second, I'll be back." I nodded off to sleep. I'm not too sure whether I was asleep for an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours, but when I woke up, my brother should have been there. But I stood up, I looked to the left of the train station, I looked to the right, there were sort of people walking about, loitering about, and I'm thinking in a sort of a groggy, disorientated, hazy situation, where is my brother Gudu? I can't see him, he should be here. And I'm wondering, where he is. And all I could see is these people and a train in front of me. I'm not too sure whether this train is the same train that I boarded from my hometown, and it's the train that sort of brought us to Burrumpore, or it's a different train. I'm not too sure. But I thought to myself, maybe my brother is on this train. And sort of, I made a decision. It was a very irrational decision. But back then, as a 5-year-old, you sort of think quite irrationally. And so I decided to board this train thinking that my brother is on this carriage, or the carriage further up, and in a little cubicle somewhere. And little did I know that I would be boarding a train and I'll become a prisoner, and the train will have a destination unknown, and absolutely oblivious to my mother, she will never see her 2 sons ever again. After about a day and a half being a prisoner on this train, it came to a halt in a place called Calcutta. I've never been to Calcutta. The doors opened of the carriage of this train, and there was thousands of people commuting from the main train station to other platforms of this huge, gargantuan train station. And I'm only tiny, and I've been pushed to the left, to the right, with the knees into my guts and my legs, and I'm trying to find clearance to see, where I am. Why is this train station looking so big? I've never seen it before. And I'm so scared and petrified as well, because I've just woken up and, I'm feeling, it's not a nightmare that I'm into a frightmare. And anyway, I ended up in the clear, and I'm seeing all these people, these platforms, these trains at these different platforms. Railway lines just going left, right and centre. Such a entanglement of railway lines, I've never seen before. The only two places that I've ever been to in my life was just at my home train station and Burrampore train station. I'd never venture out any further because it's the unknown. And so anyway, here I am, I'm feeling a bit frightened, I'm trying to ask people, Burrampore, but no one's taking a note. You know, everyone's sort of has their own job to do for the day, whether they're sort of going home, commuting to work, or commuting to going back home with their families. And one of the things that I realised when I was in Calcutta train station is that the language was different. You know, in Calcutta they speak Bengali. I spoke Hindi. And the amount of words that I knew in Hindi was absolutely nominal. I only knew about 5 to 6 words. So the language is against me. People taking a note of this little child that is lost and is in despair and wants help and wants salvation, being totally ignored. Later on, I started to feel that, you know, the realisation that, hey, Saroo, you're lost. And all of a sudden, I dropped onto my knees on the floor and started to cry, thinking that, you know, hopefully someone's going to help me, hoping that my brother would come up and tap me on the back and just say, hey, Saroo, you've had enough for today, let's go home. But in the state of solitude, I was seeking solace, but there was no salvation there. And so, you know, one of the amazing things about human beings is that when we drop on our knees and we let all our sorrows go, we learn to pick ourselves back up. And that's one of the things I did. I thought, here I am in an unknown, alienating place that I've never seen before. No one's helping me. I don't know where I am. What am I going to do? Now, for a little kid in a situation like that, he'd probably go into a corner and just sit there and hope that, you know, someone would come along and help him out. But I thought to myself, look, let's be proactive and do things. If a train can bring me here, then a train can take me back to the place that I boarded. And so I decided to be proactive and started boarding these different trains from different platforms of this massive train station. And for weeks and weeks, I was catching these trains, sometimes 2 hours or 3 hours each way. I was going through little sort of towns to countryside. And each time I went on a different train, I ended up coming to the end of line. And I couldn't understand why am I catching this train from this platform, and I end up, after 2-3 hours, at the end of line, and that same train will take me to the platform that I originally boarded. And I couldn't work it out, but later on I thought, you know, I can't keep on doing this because it became futile. I wasn't getting anywhere. And I realised later on that, you know, I was catching these metro trains. They were trains that, you know, would go one way, and when it came to the end of the line, it would return back to the same place that it disembarked. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, this isn't getting me anywhere. I've got to walk out of this train station and, you know, try and find some food, some shelter, because, you know, I haven't sort of eaten for days. And that's one of the scary things about it, is that, you know, you're in the comfort and in the zoning of this train station where you're safe. As a little kid, you're safe in this train station because outside the doors of this train station, there are all sorts of people walking past, lurking eyes, and you know, you never know what kind of situation that you may confront. And so I made that sort of a valiant attempt to walk out. And I walked out of the train station. I started looking for food, and I went to sort of shops and stores where people would throw the leftover food onto the ground, and I'd pick it up and eat it. There'd be like nuts and peanuts And you know what? One of the hardest thing about it was I wasn't the only one that was hungry at these sort of, and was at these shops that people would sort of throw leftover food. There were other people as well, you know, kids and children, and so I was contending, and made it even super harder. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, what am I going to do? You know, I haven't had a shower for quite a few days, and I decided to sort of go to the Hooghly River, the Ganges River, which is a holy river in Calcutta. And this river was only 40 metres away from the train station. And so, as a little kid, I'm all dirty, and I see other kids playing as well. And I sort of, you know, the solidarity sort of matter sort of come together, and I started playing with these kids. But I didn't understand about tidal systems, river tidal systems. So I'm with these kids, and they're playing right next to the water, and you've got steps that are going down and submerging into the river. And we're all jumping off and into the water, then coming back up. And let me tell you, I don't know how to swim. But we're all sort of having fun, and time is going really quick. And I'm getting lower and lower into the water. Well, the tide's coming from here, and it's going down and down and down. And the stairs that are submerging into the water, there's going to be a point where, you know, the stairs is just going to be a drop, a massive drop on the side, which, you know, no more stairs are going to be there. And I don't know how to swim. And so I'm forgetting that I'm going further down and down, and before I know it, after a few hours, I jump in after all the kids have left, and I ended up submerging into the water, don't know how to swim, there's a massive rip, and the rip is taking me out, and I'm going down, and then I'm coming back up, and I'm being pulled to the side, and I'm taking a deep breath, going up and down, and then all of a sudden I take the last breath before I go down, and I could feel the water getting colder and colder on my toes, and I am going into the abyss of this river, this holy river, and you know what? I thought I was just going to die. I had 1/10 of a second of air left, which is absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden, I could see the light, the sun, getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer as I submerged further down. And the last thing I thought about was my sister, my mother, my brothers. And I thought, you know, if there's something out there that could save me, this is the time now. And just before closing my eyes, before I went to the other side, all of a sudden this hand came into the water and pulled me out. And again, there was like, I had a lung full of water, and I was taken up to the banks of this river, and all these people started to congregate to see what had happened. Is this kid alive, or is he dead? And all of a sudden, somehow, this gush of water came out of my mouth, and I could start breathing. And I just jumped up, and I was so scared because there are so many people, and I decided to run away. And I ran away as fast as my little legs could take me. And I thought to myself, you know, that was a scary state of affairs, you know, because I could have just almost died then. That situation didn't happen once; it actually happened twice. And the same guy rescued me from the water. So I'm very thankful and lucky. Anyway, I decided to walk around all by myself, not knowing what to do, and I started walking on the railway line. And this man came over and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm lost. I don't know where my mum is. I don't know where my brothers and sisters are. I don't know how to get back to Burrampore train station." He said, "Why don't you come with me, and I will give you some food, some shelter, something to drink, and I will help you take you back, hopefully, to your family." And I thought, you know what? I've never had anyone say that to me, and this is the best situation that I could possibly be in. And so I went with this man, hoping that he'll take me back to my family. He gave me some shelter, some food, and a bed, and he said to me, "Tomorrow there's going to be a man that's going to come over, and he's going to ask you some questions about your family, where you lived, and so on. And I thought, yes, I had hope that I'm going to be returning back home the next day. Anyway, that day came, and this man came along, and he sat me down on a bed, and we were just talking and conversing and exchanging information. I didn't really have a lot to go by, you know. All I knew was my brother's name and my sister's, my mum, and Burrumpore train station, and that's it. You know, I'm almost a blank canvas with really, nominal amount of language. And so anyway, this man sat next to me, asked me all these questions. And you know what? After sort of talking to this man, I had this gut feeling that this situation, there's something not right about it. I'm not thinking with my head, I'm thinking with my feelings, my gut feelings, that there's something wrong with this situation that I'm in at the moment. And so I thought, you know, I've got to do something about it. My gut feelings is, I've got to do something. I've got to get away. It's telling me to run away from this place. It's danger, you know. And so I started to devise a plan. And all the men were about to have lunch. And I thought to myself, okay, well, after lunch, I always end up washing the dishes. And so I thought, when I wash the dishes, that's my appointed time where I should run away as fast as my little legs can take me. And so these men, they've had their lunch, they're drinking chai tea, and they're over there and I'm here, and I'm just sort of washing away the little dishes. And I'm looking to the side, thinking, you know, when's my chance of running away when they're not looking? And so I waited, and I thought, now's the time where they're all talking together and there's no attention on my side. And that's the time when I took that sort of bull by the horn and just ran as fast as I could away from this man. Because the thing about it is that situation could have gone a different way. I could have ended up in child slavery. I could have ended up, you know, all sorts of, become a person that sort of was submerged into robbery and so on. You know, I don't really want to think about what the possibilities out there could have been, but they weren't nice. And so anyway, I'm running as fast as I can through this alleyway and into a sort of a main thoroughfare. And I can't really go very far because I've only got little legs and they only can sort of go, well, not that fast anyway. And so I'm on the main thoroughfare, probably only about 30 metres away from these men, and I'm puffed. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry, and I'm starting to walk, thinking that they're not going to see me. I'm too far away. And I look to the side, and there's a man that's selling fruit. There's a store holder on the right-hand side. There's a bit of an alleyway there, and all of a sudden I hear these voices that are coming from far behind me. And I decided to run into this little alleyway and sort of back myself into a sewerage where it's just black soot and rats and cobwebs and spiders. And I'm backing into it because I've heard those voices before. And I could see these men go past who are the same men that told me that come with us, we'll give you some food and hopefully find your parents. And they had knives on the side. And I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I've got to wait for a second for these men to walk past, and then I've got to get away from this place. This whole zoning, this area, I've got to get away from it. And so when they walked past, I decided to crawl out. I'm all filthy, smelly, just black in soot. And I thought to myself, I've got to go from where the train station is, cross the bridge, and onto the other side. And so I decided to do that. I'm being analytical. I'm trying to just get away from a hostile situation and hope that these men will never see me ever again. So I crossed that bridge to the other side of the river and started walking around. And Calcutta is a massive place. There's 14 million people there, including the outer skirts. As well in suburbia, and I'm really tiny, and you've got big houses, you've got little nooks and grannies where, you know, you go to the left, go to the right, and then all of a sudden you become lost and you don't know where you are. And sometimes you might not even see the sun for a few hours. And so I'm in this labyrinth of a city trying to find somewhere and someone that could sort of help me. And anyway, I came across a teenager. And the teenager said, you know, what are you doing around here? I've never seen you before. You smell, you're all sort of black and dirty. Why don't you come with me? I'll give you a shower and we'll give you some food and some water and some shelter as well. And so I befriended this teenager. And the teenager took me back to his place. He washed me. He gave me some food. He introduced me to his family. And I thought to myself, you know, this is a good situation to be, because what I forgot to tell you is after running away from these men that worked at the railway, I was in the streets of Calcutta for a few weeks all by myself before meeting this teenager. And so I befriended this teenager. I met his family, and I started helping him out. And, you know, I was with this teenager for a couple of weeks as well. And his job was to cart freight from A to B. And this teenager looked like my older brother, and I was like really happy. I know there's no way of finding my family ever again, but this is the best situation that I could be in. And so I started helping this teenager. We did things together, hulling, you know, freight around. But one day, after being with this teenager for a few weeks, he decided to grab my hands and take me to the local police station. He grabbed my hands and took me to this metro police station and handed me over to the authority. And that policeman decided, okay, well, we don't know what to do with this child. He's lost. He can't find his family. He can't tell us much information. And so I was put into a cell for 2 days, and there was another person in there, an old man with a white beard and a walking stick. And I thought to myself, you know, why did that teenager take me to the authority, to the policeman? And why am I in this cell, in this prison, by myself and this old guy in the corner? But I think what the teenager's family thought was, why have you brought this boy that we have no idea where he's from, and he doesn't even know, you know, the street name that he comes from, the information that we could sort of extract from is just nominal. It's like not enough to even get him back to his hometown. And so I guess the teenager and the parents had a little conversation. It's like, hey, you got to take this boy to the authority and let them handle. We don't have enough room in this house to feed another face, another body. We don't have enough room in the house at all to have someone stay here. And so I think that was the conversation with his family. So anyway, I'm in this cell for a few days, and before I know it, I'm being taken out of the cell of this prison and into a van, and then taken to a massive youth juvenile prison of Calcutta, where I'm going through these doors and into this massive quadrangle where there are other children as well. This youth prison is a prison where you go to and you never come out. It's a prison where juvenile delinquents have come along because they've committed all sorts of things, from robbery to you name it. There are people there that have sort of, you know, broken limbs missing off, mentally disabled, and I'm amongst all these children, and I'm just wondering, you know, what am I going to do here? What is this place? But hey, I'm better off being in this prison than being out there with all sorts of people and lurking eyes. It's safer for me to be in this prison as opposed to being out there in the elements. And so the government of India thought, you know, we've got this child that has come from, we have no idea where he's from, and he has no idea sort of how to get back, and the information that we can get out of him it's not enough to sort of take him back to his hometown. So they thought, okay, we've got to do the right thing and follow protocols. And so they decided to advertise me in the local paper, in the Calcutta paper. And there was a little of a Photoshop of myself in this paper, and just a small description. Does anyone in Calcutta know this boy, his name? Can anyone come forth and claim this child? And no one came to my salvation, no one came forth. And the government thought, well, hey, what are we going to do? No one came forth. He's a lost child. He's physically okay. He's mentally okay. We're going to declare Saroo a lost child of India, and he's up for adoption. And I ended up going from the youth juvenile prison to a place called ISA, which is the Indian Society of Sponsorship and Adoption. And I was there for a few months. And ISA did the same thing as the youth juvenile prison. They extracted as much information as they possibly can. And they thought, okay, we're going to put you in the paper to see if anyone would claim you. But again, no one came forth. And the owner of ISA, Saroo, took me one day, she grabbed my hand, and we went to her office, and she said, Saroo, sit down here. We have tried to find your family, but no one has came forth. You can either stay here in the foundling home, or you can go to Australia and be with an adoptive family. The choice is yours. And I thought to myself, from everything that I've been through, of being with my biological parents, to catching that train to Burrampore train station, and then boarding a train that took me to Calcutta, and going through all the trials and tribulations, and I would never want any 5-year-old to go through what I did. And then all of a sudden, coming to this point of being given a decision whether to stay here or go to Australia to be with another adoptive parent. And I thought to myself, you know what? I've tried to look for my family myself by catching all these trains. And if I can't find my family, I'm sure you can't either. And so I said to Saroo, and I remember making this decision, I will go to Australia to be with these people. And one of the things that my adoptive family did was to send over a little photo book. And I saw the little photo book, and it showed, well, it said, this is your new mum, this is your new dad, this is the plane that you'll be coming from India to Australia. This is your bedroom, these are your toys. And, you know, that was given just to make a smooth transition from India to Australia. So I'm not all scared. But I wasn't scared. I've been through so much that I thought to myself, if there's anything else out there in the world, then I can tackle it. You know, it's the resilience of me. Anyway, so before I know it, because everything has just expedited so quickly, I'm boarding a jumbo jet from India coming to Australia, Melbourne. And I'm all excited and happy, and there's this really comical situation where I'm sitting down and I'm having my dinner before the plane lands at Melbourne Airport. And I have this massive piece of chocolate, which back then Indians called Cadbury's. And so I called chocolate 29 years ago Cadbury's. And it's just an hour before landing. And I had my dinner, and the plane comes to a land, and I ended up getting off the plane with this massive piece of chocolate in one hand and my bag on the other. And we go, and I don't know how I ended up getting through customs, but I ended up going through customs, through these little corridors, and to a VIP room where my new family, my adoptive family, is waiting. And so I've been sort of taken by hand by escorts, people that sort of came along to grab me and escort me all the way to Australia. And here I am standing at the entrance of a VIP room, and I could see further afield there that, that there's my new parents, my adoptive parents. And I've still got that chocolate in my hand, and it's dripping on the ground. And I don't want to let go because it's a delicacy. And my adoptive mother could see that, hey, there's this chocolate dripping down from Saroo's hand. And her maternal sort of instinct just galvanised. And she stood up, she came across, she got some tissues out of her pocket, and she grabbed my hand and wiped the chocolate out of my hand. And I think at that point in time, the brace between mother and son and father was created. And before I know it, I was heading to a place called Hobart, Tasmania. Such an aesthetic view from the hammocks of India, Calcutta, to coming to the, the prestigiousness of Hobart, Tasmania. A total different contrast. And, I ended up getting unconditional love attached to my parents, having sort of gratitude there that, these people had really saved me. I could have ended up somewhere else, but I ended up with Sue and John Brierley, and amazing parents as well. But as time sort of went on, I got used to the Australian way of life, the language, the food, the people. But you know what? I never forgot about my past. Everything has sort of expedited so quickly that I was in India, then all of a sudden, bang, I was taken, and here I am in Australia. Just put there, take care of yourself. And so I'm thinking of my past all the time as I was sort of growing up and going through adolescence and being a young adult. And I'm thinking, why has this happened to me? Why did maybe, the power of the universe decide that you, as myself, should be chosen to go on this journey, this destiny, and a path that, I would, like I said, I wouldn't want any 5-year-old to go through. And all of a sudden come here to Australia with amazing family. And, all these things started to go through my head. The feeling of ambivalence, the feeling of nostalgia, the feeling of being stuck between a rock and a hard plate. I was subconsciously unsettled. Very lucky to be in Australia, but I'm thinking about, is my sister still alive? Is she fed? Has she had anything to eat? Is my mum still there? Is my brothers, alive as well? And, you start thinking about all these things. And, it's not, I guess, normal for something like this to happen. I don't know anyone else that has gone through what I have. And so, as sort of times went on, I understand what I've gone through, and I understand that I've got psychological scarring, but I'm disassociating myself from what's happened in the past, and here I am, and this is the future, and this is what I've got. I should feel lucky and have gratitude. And obviously I did. I didn't let the past sort of take over me and make me feel in a way that, that I need sort of psychological help. It could have happened. The past took over me. I needed psychological help. Every day that I wake up, I feel that, I can't go forward. I'm stuck in a shell, in a bubble that I can't get out. But, I didn't do that. I was being analytical again. I decided that, I know that's happened, but I don't want that force to take over me and make the happiness that I should be feeling go away, because I just can't get away from it. And so, as time sort of went on, I decided, that I understand that I've got this feeling, but that feeling is becoming heavier and heavier and heavier. The beacon is becoming bigger and bigger. The weights on my shoulders are so heavy that I've got to do something about it. And a lot of people, I had dreams as well. I had dreams, and they were called, my dreams were actually astral projections. And astral projection, I don't know if anyone knows, but it's the feeling where you go to sleep, you have that out-of-body experience, You go into space, and to the right is the unknown, and to the left is the streets that you used to walk once upon a time. And anyway, I'd go to the left and I'd materialise on the streets that I used to walk once upon a time from the CBD, the city of my hometown. I'd walk all these nooks and crannies and I'd come to the outer skirts, the suburbs, the suburb that I lived in, to the door, to the entrance of the door, and I'd open it. And this is all in my dreams, reoccurring all the time. And I'd open that door up and I'd hover on top of the ceiling, looking at my mum, my sister and my brothers who are lying there asleep. And I'd project this telepathy to them that, you know what, I'm trying to tell my mum that I'm okay. Don't worry about me. And one day in time I will find you, but not at the moment. And so this dream would be reoccurring for years and years and years. I'd have the same dream. And as I was going through my adolescence and teenage years, I decided to do something about these dreams. I needed closure because every day that I wake up, it's like, why are you there? Are you knocking on my back, telling me to do something about it? Because, a lot of people, when we have dreams that are so prominent, we think, what is it? And we go to the book and we open it up and say, oh, my dream's telling me this and telling me that. And we don't really do, much about it. For me, I've been having these dreams since I came to Australia. For 25 years, I've been having these same dreams. And so I decided to do something about it. And I thought to myself, you know what? I need to give a valiant attempt to try and find my family. But how am I going to do that? India has 8,000 train stations, 4,000 cities, 350,000 villages, over 1 billion people and such a massive landmass. How are you going to combat this situation of trying to find a needle in a haystack? Needle in a needle stack. There's just telling you guys and myself that it's like, hey, that is impossible to do. You might as well forget about the past, this is now, and there's the future. And, anyone in a situation like that would go, well, all right, let's just forget about that because it's easier to go forward than backwards. And why do you want to delve in the past anyway? It's not like you're ever going to find Burrampore train station. It's not ever like you're going to find your parents again. It's just too hard. It's just too hard. And I thought to myself, you know what? Even my friends told me, Saroo, we have coffee together and we can see that you're not with us. You're in another dimension, thinking about something else. And that's true, I was. And they said, well, Saroo, why don't you forget about the past? Be happy with what you've got and move forward and let go. And I thought to myself, if I listen to these guys, which are my friends, and other people as well, to forget about the past, then, hey, look, I'm not really autonomous. Other people are giving these advices and I'm taking it on, hoping it's the best. But you know what? I decided I'm not going to listen to anyone. I'm going to listen to myself, my mind and my body and what it's telling me. I need to diffuse these weights on my shoulders and I'm going to go back into the past to see if I can find my family. So every morning that I wake up, I can move forward and live my life. And so I thought to myself, how am I going to combat this situation? I need to be, diplomatic about it. I need to be conventional about it. I'm not going to redo what I did as a 5-year-old when I landed in Calcutta train station of catching all these different trains. Because when I did catch those different trains, it didn't take me anywhere. I ended up at the end of the line and coming back to the same platform that I boarded that train. So am I going to do that again? Am I going to go? Am I going to fly from Australia to India and go to Calcutta and start boarding these trains again? No, because the same thing will happen. I will never find Burrampore train station if I take that tack. And so I thought to myself, what is out there? what is out there that could sort of really help me? And for years and years, I've been thinking that something one day, I hope, in technology will be invented to help me find that needle in a haystack. And you know what? In 2005, what's going on? In 2005, Google Earth came about. And I thought to myself when I found the application, hang on a minute, I don't need to save up money every year to go to Calcutta and do what I used to do by catching a train as a little 5-year-old. I can use this application. And I didn't realise that, you know what, I've got a massive memory of my hometown and Burrampore train station. I've got a photographic memory. And I know all the landmarks of my hometown, and I know all the landmarks of Burrampore train station, the architecture of the place as well. Like, I can visualise it. I know, you can tell me to go from any spot at Burrampore or my hometown and from A to B, and I can tell you many different ways of getting there. And so I thought, why don't you use your photographic memory, and why don't you use this application via Google Earth, and it's free and it doesn't cost you anything. And I thought, okay, that sounds really simple, but there's nothing else that I've got. Why don't you proactive and just use those too? And I thought to myself, okay, let's have a look at it. And I'm sure, like everyone here has used Google Earth, and the first thing that you've done is go to your house and saw the roof of your house. And that's what I did as well. And I saw my mum, you know, watering the garden. And so I was a little bit scared of what this application could do. I didn't want to go to India. It was that something pushing me away from it. This force. It's like, don't go there, don't search. But I thought, you know, at that moment, I thought, you know, bugger this. And I went over and I scrolled down in India, and it was so scary. The place is massive. Now, when I started searching using Google Earth, I didn't have high-speed broadband. You know, it was back then. It was dial-up, and every time that you sort of clicked and zoomed in, it would take 5 to 10 minutes to refresh. And the pictures back then weren't as clear as they are now. The high resolution that we have now, it wasn't like that back then. It was extremely pixelated. But I knew what I was looking for. And so after searching haphazardly, I started to become quite diplomatic and methodical in the way that I searched. And I thought to myself, you know what? Just using Google Earth isn't going to help you. You know, you've got to do a little bit more research. You've got to be more tactful in the way that you sort of go about trying to find that needle in a haystack. And so I thought to myself, I'm going to have to defragment my memories of my hometown and my past and sort of populate what's useful and what's not useful. And so I decided to defragment and populate information that's going to be useful. I thought to myself, okay, I come from this place where I don't know the name, and it's my hometown, but these are the things that I remember. I remember the sun coming up from this side and landing here. I remember that there's a monsoon that used to come every year. It was cold during the night and it was hot during the day, and sometimes it was hot during the night and hot during the day as well. It was very flat, there was hills, there was animals, goats and horses, and the language that I spoke and I knew was Hindi. The food, it was hot, it was goat curry and so on, and the people sort of looked slightly different. I don't think I lived near the coast side, near the ocean. I never saw the ocean. I think I lived more sort of inland. And so these are the things that you started sort of populating, and you began to take in things that are useful and you push to the side and segregate information that wasn't useful. And so I started populating all this information and thinking, you know what, nothing really is helping me at the moment. And then all of a sudden I had that sort of epiphany, that breakthrough moment. Why don't you use the time that you're on the train and find out also how fast the train was going back, well, now 29 years ago, but when I was searching, it was 25 years ago. And I thought, that may help me. You know, it sounds simple, but hey, look, you know, I haven't got anything else to go by. And so I knew that I was on the train for about, 12, 15 hours. I thought I was on the train for a day and a half, but it was just a thought, and the number of 12, 15 hours just came in my head, even though it didn't really relate to what I thought initially, that I was on the train for a day and a half. But I just started, throwing out these numbers. And I also asked some of my friends that were from India, how fast were the trains going back 30 years ago? And so they said it was going around, 60, 70 trains back then, coal trains, were going around 60, 70 k's an hour. And I thought, well, why don't you add those two datas together? The times that you're on the train to the speed. And, you're going to get something. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to plug these two numbers in, and it ended up getting 1,200 kilometres. And so I thought, well, okay, go onto Google Earth and use that ruler tool, put a pin on Calcutta train station, because that's where you ended up coming to. That's where I landed, which is point B. All I need to do now is find point A. So I pushed that ruler tool on Google Earth and put a pin on Calcutta train station and made a radius, stretched it out to 1,200 kilometres. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Why don't I do the same thing adjacent to it? And as I was sort of putting all these lines adjacent to the previous lines that I made, I'm creating this arc. And I thought to myself, whoa, you know what? This is going to be beneficial. I know that my hometown isn't going to be on that circumference. I know I'm going to be sort of plus and minus in and out of that circumference of that radius line. How amazing would it be if I started searching and you know what, I hit jackpot and my hometown was straight on that line. But I knew that it wouldn't be. And so, I didn't want my expectations to be high. And so I started searching for years and years. I would go to work, my family business of selling marine gear, and then I'd finish at 5 o'clock and come home and get the laptop out, execute Google Earth and start searching. And I'd search, from the time that I came back from work to sometimes 12 o'clock midnight, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. I became so obsessed and regimented that time stood still. I was getting closer and closer and closer. That was the feeling. But you know what? When you're on the path to success, you go like this. You go up, and then you go down. You go up again, and then you go down. That's just the way it is. And when the times when I thought I was up here and I thought that I found Burrampore train station via using Google Earth, I thought, eureka, jackpot, I found it. But then there'd be some things about that train station that didn't match, I'm trying to look for a water tower on the left-hand side, a flyover bridge, a train station here, and the railway in the middle, which is between the train station and the water tower. That's what I'm trying to look for. And there was thousands of train stations that I've come across using Google Earth that looked exactly like it. And when I had that sort of a bell curve at the point, I thought, yes, I found it. But one thing was missing. And you think, why am I doing this? Why am I torturing myself? I'd walk away, put the laptop down, and walk away in dismay, thinking, I've got to give up. This is just futile. I can't find it. It's too hard. But you sort of walk away and you start thinking about things, and sometimes sort of being by yourself can really unjumble things in your mind and and sort of that vibration in your body can, become to a standstill where you can think clearly. You can sort of get yourself calm, collected and poised and think back and go, I've got to combat this situation in a different way. I can't just tack it, combat it, front on. I've got to take left flank, right flank. These are all the different ways to combat this situation. When you go fishing, do you fish in the same place and hope that you might catch a fish? Or do you go, try it here, try it here, try it here? The law of average will give you that the amount of times that you pick a place to the times that you do it, the law of average will tell you that you will get something. And so I took on that sort of, mental frame, that sort of analytical, way of thinking that, you've got to attack this situation in a different way because you're just hitting a wall all the time. And so when I was on the highs and, of this bell curve, I didn't let the negativity of feeling this is futile, walk away and live your life. I decided to change that negativity that I feel into a positivity. And that's when, the first time I came across how negative feelings can make you sort of, go in a different sort of segue and forget about things because it's just too hard. And so I turned it around. And so I kept on going. I kept on searching. And you know what? It was like a massive puzzle. I'm not going to find Burrampore train station today. I'm not going to find it tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. But one day in time, I will find that needle in a haystack. And that's the sort of frame of mind that you've got to have. Because you can see what you're trying to achieve, but the gap between now and there is so hard. The void is so hard to fill because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're getting into a situation which could take you in a different way. You could become physically and mentally so saddened that, I don't think I'm ever going to find my family. I've tried so hard that you end up in a psych ward. But, I didn't let that happen. And so I've been searching and searching, and I decided, I've looked to the north of India on Google Earth, but, it's too cold up there. I've looked to the south of India. The language is different. And to the right-hand side of India on the east coast, well, that's sort of, Thailand, so I'm not from that side. Anyway, when you segregate the north and the south using Google Earth, that curve that I've created by using the radius line is pointing towards the general direction you should be looking at. But I couldn't understand and conceive to understand that how can a boy travel all the way from west end of India and ended up in Calcutta train station? That's impossible. It can't happen. And so I thought, let's not have any stone unturned. Call it providence, call it serendipity. I thought to myself, I'll give it a go. And so I decided to search on the west side of India. Scrolled down one particular night, and it's around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I found this railway line, and I started scrolling, and I come across this train station, and I'm like, okay, is there a water tower on the left-hand side? Yes. Is there a flyover bridge? Yes. A ravine further on? A train station on the right-hand side? Yes. Perfect. I have never seen a train station that looks exactly the way as I remembered it. Every time that I come across a train station that looks similar, there's something missing and it's not right, and you keep on searching. But this particular night in 2011, I found this train station that is exactly the way that I remembered it and the image that's in my memory. And I thought, what's the name of this place? It should be called Burrampore, as I remembered it and the way that I articulated it. But when I zoomed out and I saw the name come up, it was called Burrampore. Hey, I never went to school. I didn't know how to articulate words properly. I was just a little boy that lived in the slums and never had any friends, no one to help me, and that was life. And so I zoomed in, I zoomed out, and I couldn't believe it. Am I dreaming? And is this sort of reality, or is this a dream that I'm having like I used to? And I decided, because I'm in such a physical shock, an emotional shock, that for such a long time I've been trying to find this needle in a haystack, and all of a sudden, bang, I found it. And, it gives you a massive shock. And so I thought I'd go to the next room and grab my girlfriend's leg and tell her, hey, I want to show you something. I've found my hometown. And she sort of jumped up, Lisa, and she came into my man cave where my computer is. And I said, hey, this is the town or the train station that I boarded that frightful night, and where I boarded the train, and it took me to Calcutta. And it's like, here it is. It's not called Burrampore, it's called Burrampore. And she's extremely tired. Lisa's extremely tired, my girlfriend. And she's just thinking, Saroo, I'm really happy for you, because for years and years, my girlfriend's been watching me finish work, come home, sit down on the couch, no attention to her at all. And she knows what I've been doing. I've been trying to find that train station. And here I am, this particular sort of morning, around 2 o'clock, I've told her that I've found it. She's shocked as well and gobsmacked. So I thought to myself, the next day, what am I going to do? I went to work, my family business, and I timed it. I thought, I've got to tell my dad what I've been doing. I knocked on the door of my dad's office, and he said, come in, and I went in, and I just didn't know how to sort of tell him. I was sort of overthinking of the situation, and I thought to myself, be simple and just tell him the way it is. And so I said, hey Dad, look, I know I haven't seen you much. I haven't seen Mum at all. I haven't been visiting. I've been very quiet. I don't answer my phones anymore to your text messages or calls. It feels like that I've really segregated from the family. But the reason being I've done that is because I've been trying to find my hometown by using Google Earth. And, I'm telling him what I've done, and he's looking at me and thinking, what is he going to say? And I said to him, hey, I've been searching for 5 years, and I want to tell you that I found it. And he's like, how can a little boy at the age of 5, now at the age of 26, remember so much and come forth into my office and tell me that he's found his hometown, or Burrampore train station? And he was sort of extremely shocked. He didn't know what to say, and he said, why don't you come home tonight, have dinner with us, because I'm sure your mum would like to see you. And so that evening I went back home, had dinner, told my mum what I've been doing, and I thought to myself, I can tell them, but why don't I just show them on Google Earth my hometown? And so I went over to the desktop computer at my house, and I said to my mum, come over here. This is Burrampore train station, and this is my hometown, which I had no idea, but my hometown is called Kandwa. And you know how I said I was from the previous town? I had no idea what was the name of my hometown, but it was called Kandwa. And she said, whoa, why don't you just wait here for a second? And she left and went around to the side where she'd kept all of thousands of books that she read. And she grabbed these particular books, which were sort of notepads, and she came back over and she said, Saroo, remember the times when we used to sit down on rainy days and I used to ask you all the questions about your mum, your dad, where you lived, how you lived, in the positions? I've got a notebook here because my mum was my psychiatrist, my psychologist. And she had noted all this information down on 2 books about my family life and so on. And one of the things that she did was to ask me, Saroo, can you draw the map of your hometown? And I drew it when I came to Australia when I was, around 5 to 6 years of age. And she got that page out and she put it right next to the monitor where I'm showing my parents, this is my hometown here, adjacent to it. And she goes, look, what you've drawn back then, 25 years ago, it matches the two, what you're looking on the monitor on Google Earth and what you've drawn on this notebook that I've got. And so I think at that point I was just like, yes, you guys believe me. But you know what? What's the next step? They understand that I found my hometown via using Google Earth, and I've consolidated. I've proved that I'm not telling lies or making things up. There it is in flesh. And I thought to myself, I've got to be really tactful in the way that I tell my parents what I'm going to do next, because I didn't want to come across as a person that was disrespectful. I wanted to ask my parents, my adoptive parents, is it okay that I go back to India and find in reality, as opposed to cyberspace, Burrampore train station and Kandwa, the town that I came from. And you know what? I asked my dad, and I said, is it okay with you guys collectively that I do that? And my dad goes, you know what? If it was me, and I've been wanting to find answers and diffuse situations that have been there within me for such a long time, I'd want to go back too and find it. And so he said, sure, we're more than happy for you to do that. And I said to my parents, look, I want to take this journey on myself. I don't want you to come with me. It's a self-discovery journey that I'm sort of going. I've never been to India. I came out of India, but that was back 25 years ago. This is the first time I'm going back to India, because every other time that I wanted to go back, or my parents wanted to take us back to India, I sort of got cold feet and didn't want to go. And so I'm going on a self-discovery journey, trying to find my hometown in reality, or train station, Burrampore train station first, in reality, as opposed to looking on Google Earth in cyberspace. And I've got the permission of my mum and dad. And so I didn't go the next day straight away. I decided to research in where I'm going. I decided to save up money all by myself, work hard, and let the money sort of accumulate. I booked flights and accommodation. But after sort of a year from when I found Burrampore train station via using Google Earth in 2011, after a year had passed, I began a journey that will be a massive pivotal time for me. And so I caught a plane from Hobart, where I lived in Tasmania, and my mum was really scared. I could see that she was very unsettled, my adoptive mother. And she said, Saroo, don't have any expectations when you get to India, because you know what? If you have high expectations, it may bring you down. I just want you to be aware of it. And additionally to that too, I'm going to give you something. And it was an A4 piece of paper of when I was a little kid, a little child of 5 years of age. She had made an A4 piece of paper, like a montage of all these little photos of me when I was a little kid. And she gave that to me, and she said, I hope these pictures of you come in hand, be helpful. And so anyway, I boarded the plane, and went through check-in, and I was coming to the step of the plane before boarding, and I thought, I shouldn't go. I should turn. At that point in time, I was just about to turn back and go back to safety of being with my parents. I thought, I'm not going to do this. It's too much. It's too much emotionally. It's too much for me. I don't know what's on the other side of the wall, the unknown. But all of a sudden, I just thought, calm down, just give it a go. Get yourself collected and put yourself together. And I decided, okay, I'm going to board that plane. I boarded the plane, ended up going from Hobart to Melbourne and catching the new A380. And we got onto the A380 in Melbourne, and there was an announcement. The captain said there's a bit of a delay, and the delay is going to be about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And I thought to myself, no, because I've got connecting flights. And I'm really scared that I just want a smooth sail, a smooth transition. But an hour had passed, and the captain makes another announcement, and he goes, look, everything is fixed. We just needed to put some gaffer tape on the cap of the fuel tank. And I'm just like, whoa. And I thought, okay, great. But anyway, we ended up coming from Australia to Bangkok, Bangkok to Delhi, Delhi to a place called Indore, and then I caught a taxi from Indore to Khandwa, which is my hometown, and it was a 4-hour trip. And the scariest thing about that taxi ride was that I thought we were going to have a collision. Because one of the things that Indians like to do is play chicken on the road. And I thought I was going to die at that point in time, but, you know, thanks to the celestial beings and the power of the universe that are aligned perfectly, and I ended up coming to Khandwa. And I thought, what is this place? I don't recognise it. It looks different. Why does everything, all the houses look decayed? And I thought, you should put yourself back in the taxi and go back to Australia. And, you know, there was a lot of emotional things going on. You know, I had these sort of protons, electrons, and things in my head clashing, the fusion. And I thought, no, actually, why don't you ask the taxi driver to take you to the train station? And I ended up getting to the train station, got out of the car, and I'm like, I knew exactly where I am, like the back of my hands. And I went to the hotel, threw my bags in the corner, came out of the hotel, started walking the streets I once did as a little child. And then I came to this junction, and to the left is the city, and to the right is suburbia, where I come from. And without executing my legs to go to the right, they decided that they were going to go to the right by themselves. And I had muscle memory in my legs that started taking me through these nooks and crannies, and I was going through up this road and taking a left and a right. These were like autonomous. And before I know it, I'm standing at front of a house where I grew up. Remember the dreams that I was talking about, the astral projection, where I'd be standing at front of my house where I grew up, was born, and I'd open the door, then I'd hover at the ceiling and I'd see my sister and my brothers and my mum and tell them telepathically that one day in time I will find you. Well, that happened in reality, and this is what I'm telling you now. Here I am, standing at the house that I was once born, to the entrance, but the door is shut, and I could see a little peephole, but it's all dark and black in there. There's no one in there. It's empty. And I thought the worst, that my parents are dead. They are no longer there, my sister, my brother, and the worst came over me. And anyway, I was thinking, what am I going to do? And within about 5 to 10 minutes, this woman comes around the side, and she's got a baby in her hand. And she said, can I help you? In a very sort of Hindi, English way, Hinglish. And I didn't know what to say, because I don't know how to speak Hindi. And I thought to myself, hang on, my mum gave me that A4 piece of paper with photos of myself as a little child. And I showed her, I said, this is me. And then I told her my brother's name, my sister's name, my name, my mum, and my dad's, even though he wasn't really with us. And she took a few minutes, and when she sort of replied, because I think she sort of was translating what I'm trying to ask her, she said that these people don't live here anymore. And I thought the worst again. I thought, you know, they don't live here anymore. They don't live here anymore. They have died. That's what I thought in my head. And, you know, same again, the feelings of the dead came about me. But another person came along and asked the same question, and another one, to a point where the last person came to me, and I sort of repeated my mantra to this man, and he said, wait here for a second. He went around the corner, and he was there for about 10 minutes, and then he came back, and he said, Saroo, come with me, I'm going to take you to your mother. I walked around the corner with this man, and that position where I was standing when that man came up to me and said, Saroo, come with me, I'm going to take you to your mother, is the same position I was standing when I went to my older brother and said, I want to go with you, I want to do what you guys did. That's the same position. History has repeated itself. And so anyway, I'm walking along with this man, and just about 15 metres around the corner, the man goes, stay here, there's your mother. And there was 3 women standing adjacent to each other to an entrance of a house. And I thought, it can't be all 3 of these women be my mother. And so I looked at the first one, and I'm only like 3 metres away from these ladies. I looked at the first one, it's not you. Then I looked at the second one, there's something about you. And then I looked at the third lady, and I thought, it's not you. And I went back to the lady in the middle, and I could see a face that I remembered 25 years ago, but that face has changed because she has aged. But the contours of my mother's face is still there. It's like it took me, a few seconds to realise that, that's your mum, but she has aged, and she's shorter, but I'm taller. And she came forth, and I just zoomed in on her, and all of a sudden we both had that realisation that, hey, you're my son and you're my mother, and this is what happened.
There, at the end of the line, after 26 years, Saroo's mother, Fatima.
Wow. What a pivotal moment. I disappeared like a ghost 25 years ago. Then I materialised on a Sunday afternoon like a ghost. And here is my mother, in front of me. And she remembered, I used to run around her sari in and out, chasing my little baby sister. And then she, the thing that she went through was like, you just disappeared like that, Saroo, but now here's a Sunday afternoon and you're standing in front of me. Such a physical and mental shock to each other, but amazing time. I can't really put it into words, but the tactility of hugging and touching, as you saw there, speaks for itself. It's a point of time where 2 souls that have been seeking for each other has come to a point where they can rest. And so I asked myself, and one of the very first questions to my mum I wanted to ask her was, did you look for me? And she said, yes, I did. I went everywhere that you could imagine, but without any success. And she asked me the same question, did you look for me as well? I said, I've been looking for you for all my life in my subconscious in a different dimension. And I've been putting all these puzzles in the back of my memory together. And I have autonomously transcended. And, it was a great feeling. It was the best feeling that, if you work hard and, have resilience and tenacity, then the amount of work that you do will be, the amount that you achieve. And so one of the other questions too, I wanted to ask my mum, where's my older brother? And she sort of, her head went down and she said that he's no longer. I didn't realise that a week later after I disappeared, my brother was found severed on the railway lines. And he was dead. And no one knows why it's happened. It's a grey X factor sort of a situation. But you know what? My brother should be feeling, and even though he's my hero, Saroo, you should be feeling elated that you found your family. And of course I am. I found my mum, I found my next brother in line and my sister, and I think that's the best possible thing that could ever happen to me, of course. Thank you. I didn't realise, but the local policeman alerted the media, and The local policeman alerted the media, and all these people from north, south, east, west wanted to come to my hometown to find out this amazing story, this unique, profound story, which sort of resonated in the Indian people of a film called Hero. And when I went back to Australia, 60 Minutes Australia wanted to do a little documentary. And one of the things that they wanted to do was unite my biological mum with my adoptive mother.
This is my mother, Kamala. Kamala, this is my mother, Sue.
Whew. This particular photo signifies, my mum said to me, my adoptive mother said to me, Saroo, this is going to be our last session that we're going to have together, the psychological sort of, the sessions that we had. And she said, you know what, one thing that I really want to do, and hope it sort of comes apparent in time, I would really love to meet your biological mother because I can show her what an amazing man that you have grown to be. And in reality, it happened. And now I'm very thankful that not only do I have a mother that gave me birth, but a mother that gave me a second chance. So now I have two mothers. And I talk to my biological mother all the time, at least, twice a month, and she does all the talking. I've bought her a house. I helped out the foundling home, ESA, to keep on, ongoing the dream of Saroo Sood, of helping other children that are in need. And extremely thankful, I see my mum at least twice a year, or try to. But later on, as the sort of story went about globally, I was asked, would you like to write a book about your odyssey? And it was the scariest thing. I thought to myself, you're disclosing information, personal information, about yourself to all and sundry people in the world. No, I don't really want to. I want to stay, left alone, untouched, and just live life normally. But then on the other side, I thought to myself, hey, you're being selfish. What happens if there's other people that have been in a similar situation as yourself? And on that notion, I thought to myself, let's be a humanitarian, a good Samaritan. If you've got information and knowledge that could help other people, then why not share it? And so after talking to my parents, I said, hey, look, this is how I think about my story and my life. There, of course, may be other people in the world, not just in Australia, India, USA, Europe, UK. There must be others in a similar situation, and I think we should write this book to help them, to at least give a light at the end of the tunnel, and empower and help them on their journey to try and also diffuse situations and that weight on their shoulder. And so. And so the book came out in 2013, and in 2016 the movie Line came out, which became an international box office success, as the book was an international bestseller. What's the success of my story? I think for me it's a fusion of these integral elements of hope, determination, sheer grit, support from your family, and, taking a chance at life as well. Well, making a choice first, and then taking a chance. And if you do it in that progression, then we will create a change. Because you know what? If we never take chance in our life, then we will never know what's on the other side of the wall. Thank you. Well done, daughter. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Saroo. Muchas gracias, Saroo. Vamos a recibir a Fernando Calvín. Él viene de AXA, Fundación AXA, uno de nuestros socios fundadores también, desde el principio. Fernando, adelante. Bienvenido. Os recuerdo que ahora, después de las preguntas, vamos a hacer el sorteo del dron, así que todos muy atentos. ¿Y la camiseta para cuándo? Para un poquito más tarde. Os haremos llegar la camiseta. Bueno, escuchamos las preguntas, vuestras preguntas, que se las va a trasladar Fernando. Fernando, desde Fundación AXA nos apoyáis desde hace un montón de años y bueno, siempre es un placer contar con vosotros y además tú ya eres un veterano.
Sí, bueno, buenos días ya casi tardes a todas y a todos. La verdad que sí, yo tenía pensado presentarme como Fernando Calvín, director territorial de AXA en Levante, Baleares, 8 años ya al lado de la Fundación, lo que de verdad importa. Claro, después de escuchar a Guzmán, tengo que decir que sí, yo soy uno de esos hombres serios con traje. Y después de escuchar a Dani, muy a mi pesar, Dani, yo estaba en primera fila. Así que no me libro. Pero lo que realmente nos une a AXA, a la Fundación AXA, a la cual hoy estoy aquí representando, y a todos y cada uno de nosotras, de nosotros, es sin duda el sentimiento que nos causan y las emociones que nos despiertan escuchar estas 3 grandísimas historias de superación, de método, de perseverancia, de consistencia en el trabajo y desde luego de actitud y de ambición por lo que uno quiere. Y por lo tanto, pues desde luego en AXA y en la Fundación AXA compartimos todos estos valores y nos sentimos muy representados y muy ilusionados cada vez que tenemos que estar aquí. Yo, Saroo, lo que voy a intentar trasladarte son las preguntas que nos han hecho llegar. Y la primera que nos hacen dice: ¿cómo crees que hubiera sido tu vida si hubieras podido regresar a casa desde el primer momento que lo intentaste? ¿Cómo estaría hoy tu vida? ¿Cómo sería hoy tu vida?
I think I wouldn't be very successful. I think when I tell you that I'm confronted against 4,000 train stations, 8,000 cities, 350,000 villages, and over 1 billion people in such a massive land, without technology, which is the catalyst of how I succeed, and there are many catalysts, I wouldn't have succeeded. And as much as I sort of would have tried, I would have done exactly the same when I was a 5-year-old, of coming to the end of line and coming back to the spot where I originally boarded the train. So there's a lot to sort of speak to sort of when it comes to technology, that it's amazing that we have it. But not only did technology help, but being analytical and using your own mind, because we can be analytical ourselves. We don't have to rely on technology all the time. We are the captain of the ship and we know how to drive it. And so that's the way I thought about things. But to answer your question, I wouldn't have succeeded. And I would have walked away thinking that, I should really push this all in the side and move forward with life.
Okay, thank you. Una pregunta muy interior y que nos hacen aquí, y dice, ¿qué es lo que sentiste cuando volviste a ver a tu madre por segunda vez, cuando te volviste a encontrar? ¿Qué sentiste? ¿Cuáles fueron tus sentimientos en ese momento?
Well, just a massive shock, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. She was just frozen. I was just frozen. We were looking into each other's eye. There was tears of salt water welling and then coming down in our faces. And in that split second of 1/10 of a second, a whole 25 years had gone just like that within my mind. And I'm not too sure what she was thinking, but, maybe the same as well, because she's my mum. That I succeeded. And I succeeded in a way because I was a person that thought outside the realm that everyone else is in. I was that, from the movie Matrix, I was Neo that was unplugged from the Matrix. I thought outside the square that I lived in. And I thought from a supernatural sense as well as, thinking that, humans are, we're more than that, we're more than just flesh and bone. We're a species that has an organ, which is our brain, that has a thirst to want to accomplish. I think a lot of people, we forget. We forget that, we should use our minds a lot more than what we really should be. And sort of, all the computers and iPhones and all that is sort of taking over that analytical side of us. But yeah, putting all that, encapsulating together, it was that eureka jackpot moment where I found a key that was the success to me. And that's why I've written a book, and that's why I tell you, everyone, hope, determination, sheer grit is the success for you guys as well. It's not for you to totally use it, but use it the way that you want to use it, because, not all of us use the same recipe to make whatever it is, cake and so on.
Okay. Y para acabar, preguntan y...
Thank you.
Una última pregunta y muy relacionada con el título de este congreso. Dicen, ¿qué era lo que de verdad importaba para Saroo como niño en la India y qué es lo que de verdad importa para Saroo hoy de adulto en Australia?
As I said, I was a blank canvas, when I was a kid. But being a kid back then, I didn't know anything about life. I mean, I was slightly street smart, but going through all the harrowing state of affairs in Calcutta, it takes a certain person to have a power to the will to want to live. Because any moment in Calcutta, it could have been just gone, just like that. And that's the strength in character, that I possessed, the resilience of me. And so I was only doing what my gut feelings and my mind was telling me to do back then. But as an adult now, what is important to me is my family. I'm important too, to look after myself, my friends. But one thing that I find really important too, and it's up there, is humanity. As a child, I didn't give up from the men that said, come with us, we'll give you shelter, even though they had another ulterior motive. I didn't give up on the teenager that took me in and said, come with me, we'll give you some shelter and hopefully find your family. And I didn't give up on the government of India or Saroo Sood. I felt that, I can't be like that. And so I don't think I'll ever give up on humanity, because I feel that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, that we can sort of prosper. But one of the big things that I haven't told you is part of the search of trying to find my family, I was also trying to become liberated. I was also trying to free my mind, because I felt that I was so closed in and so regimented by society and the laws of the place that I live in Australia. So I became liberated by succeeding what I wanted to do. And you know what, I wish and I hope in one day in time that all humanity in this world will be liberated as well.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Fernando.
Thank you.
Saroo.